Hi, thanks for watching BibleMountain.com. In this video we're going to read from Exodus 37 and talk about whether or not our skills are actually intended for God's personal pleasure. There's a lot of talk within Christianity about the need to serve God with our talent and ability. There's a lot of talk about we have an audience of one, where what we do is directed towards God, directed towards serving and worshiping God. But I'm not sure that what we actually do in practice actually reflects that. I think we've fallen into the trap of actually using our gifts and abilities to glorify ourselves as much as we glorify God. And as part of that, there's a conflict between the desire to serve God and also some of the restrictions that the Bible places on certain people. For example, the qualifications for being an elder are very strict. There are consequences for being divorced and remarried. There are restrictions on the role that women can play in the family and in society and in church. And oftentimes we rationalize our way around those restrictions by saying, well, so-and-so has this ability and they should be able to use it to serve God. And so we ignore some of the restrictions in the Bible with the excuse that they need to use their ability to serve God. Exodus 37 gives us a picture of how we should respond to those arguments. So let's take a look. The context of Exodus 37 is the Israelites are at Mount Sinai and they're building the tabernacle, and we'll pick up reading in verse 1. Now Bezalel made the ark of acacia wood. Its length was 2.5 cubits, and its width 1.5 cubits, and its height 1.5 cubits. And he overlaid it with pure gold inside and out, and made a gold molding for it all around. Now, we're talking about the ark. The ark was intended to be inside the tabernacle. It was supposed to be inside the Holy of Holies. And if you know the rest of your Bible, you know that very few people could go into the Holy of Holies. In fact, the high priest is the only person who could go in there, and he could go in there only one time a year. And yet we see that this ark was overlaid with pure gold. And a lot of money was invested in building this ark. Yet despite the value that went into this ark, only one person ever saw it, and that was only once a year. Now keep that in mind. Let's keep reading at verse 3. He cast 4 rings of gold for the ark on its 4 feet, even 2 rings on one side of it, and 2 rings on the other side of it. He made poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. He put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark to carry it. He made a mercy seat of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long and 1.5 cubits wide. He made 2 cherubim of gold. He made them of hammered work at the 2 ends of the mercy seat. So after he made the ark was essentially a box. Then he made a mercy seat as the cover or the lid of the box. And we see that that was made of pure gold. And so again, a lot of value was invested in this mercy seat. Furthermore, the mercy seat had these 2 cherubim carved into it. So not only was there a lot of gold and value invested in this mercy seat, there was a lot of time and effort and skill invested in making this thing. And again, it was made to be placed in the tabernacle where only one human would see it, and that only one time a year. Verse 8, 1 cherub at the one end and 1 cherub at the other end. He made the cherubim of one piece with the mercy seat, 1 cherub at the one end and 1 cherub at the other end. He made the cherubim of one piece with the mercy seat at the 2 ends. The cherubim had their wings spread upward, covering the mercy seat with their wings, with their faces toward each other. The faces of the cherubim were toward the mercy seat. Then he made the table of acacia wood, 2 cubits long and 1 cubit wide and 1.5 cubits high. He overlaid it with pure gold and made a gold molding for it all around. So there was also a table, and this was inside the tabernacle, and it was overlaid with gold. And a lot of talent and value and skill and time and effort went into making this table. And since the table was inside the tabernacle, very few people saw it. The priests were the only ones who were ever allowed inside the tabernacle. And so most of the Israelites were never able to see all these pieces of furniture that were being made for the tabernacle. So that raises the question, why were they doing this? Why were they making them? Well, the simple answer is it was for God's pleasure. The value and the skill that went into these items was intended to demonstrate the extent to which the Israelites valued the Creator of the universe. And so perhaps as we think about our gifts and abilities, we should look at it the same way. our gifts and abilities might be intended to help other people, but then again, our gifts and abilities might be merely intended for God's pleasure. And maybe the way for us to serve God is to use our gifts in such a way that God is the only one that ever sees them. And God is the only one that ever gets to enjoy them. Let's keep reading in verse 12. He made a rim for it of a handbreadth all around, and made a gold molding for its rim all around. He cast 4 gold rings for it, and put the rings on the 4 corners that were on its 4 feet. Close by the rim were the rings, the holders for the poles to carry the table. He made the poles of acacia wood, and overlaid them with gold to carry the table. He made the utensils which were on the table, its dishes and its pans and its bowls and its jars, with which to pour out drink offerings of pure gold. So we see there were a lot of dishes and pans on this table, and they were all made out of pure gold. Verse 17. Then he made the lampstand of pure gold. He made the lampstand of hammered work. Its base and its shaft, its cups, its bulbs, and its flowers were of one piece with it. So the lampstand was one piece. They took one piece of gold and then started carving away at it and formed this lampstand. We see that there were cups and bulbs and flowers. A lot of time and skill went into building this lampstand. Verse 18, there were 6 branches going out of its sides, 3 branches of the lampstand from the one side of it, and 3 branches of the lampstand from the other side of it. 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, a bulb and a flower in one branch, and 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, a bulb and a flower in the other branch. So for the 6 branches going out of the lampstand. In the lampstand there were 4 cups shaped like almond blossoms, its bulbs and its flowers. And a bulb was under the first pair of branches coming out of it, and a bulb under the second pair of branches coming out of it, and a bulb under the third pair of branches coming out of it, for the 6 branches coming out of the lampstand. Their bulbs and their branches were one piece with it. The whole of it was a single hammered work of pure gold. He made its 7 lamps with its snuffers and its trays of pure gold. So again, we see this lampstand was pure gold. It was one piece, and it was very intricately carved. It was very valuable. It was probably very beautiful. And yet very few humans saw it. The priests were the only ones who were ever allowed to see this thing, which means that it was made mostly for God's pleasure. Or to be a little more specific, it was made for God's private pleasure. Verse 24, he made it and all its utensils from a talent of pure gold. Then he made the altar of incense of acacia wood, a cubit long and a cubit wide, square, and 2 cubits high. Its horns were of one piece with it. He overlaid it with pure gold, its top and its sides all around, and its horns, and he made a gold molding for it all around. So here we see they made an altar of incense. And this incense altar was also inside the tabernacle. It was overlaid with gold, and it was only seen by the priests. Verse 27. He made 2 golden rings for it under its molding on its 2 sides, on opposite sides, as holders for poles with which to carry it. He made the poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. And he made the holy anointing oil and the pure fragrant incense of spices, the work of a perfumer. So they had this incense altar inside the tabernacle, and as part of the incense altar, they burned incense on it. Well, the point of incense is to make it smell good. But even there, we see that there were very few people that would ever enjoy the aroma of the incense, because the priests were the only ones who were ever allowed inside the tabernacle. And even at that, the priests could not just go in there any time they wanted to. There was only certain times they could go in there, and not all the priests were allowed to go in there at once. So again, we see all this furniture made for the inside of the tabernacle. It was very valuable. A lot of time and skill and effort went into making all this furniture. And yet, essentially, God is the only one who ever saw it and got to enjoy it. Because the humans that were able to see and enjoy all this furniture were very few. As we think about the talent and ability that we have to serve God, and then we think about some of the restrictions the Bible places on humans. The qualifications to be elders are very high. There are restrictions on what divorced and remarried people can do. There are restrictions on the role of women in church and in the family and in society. And so when we have people who have abilities that they can't use in church or in society because of some of those biblical restrictions, instead of overriding those restrictions, what we need to do is have the mindset that perhaps God intends them to use their gifts and abilities solely for God's personal, private pleasure. And so for the women who have abilities that they can't use in church because of the biblical restrictions, perhaps the answer is to use those abilities in the privacy of your home and serve God where He is the one and only audience. For leaders who are prohibited from serving as elders for whatever reason, perhaps the outlet for your leadership is in your prayer life. And to look around at the church and society and see where things need to go and pray accordingly. And do that just between you and God. And for people who are divorced and remarried, likewise. Perhaps the way to use your gifts and abilities is in the privacy of your home, in your prayer life, and to let the use of your abilities be solely between you and God, and to use your abilities and gifts for God's personal private pleasure and for His glory only, and not for your pleasure, not for your glory, and not for the pleasure and glory of your fellow human beings and your fellow Christians. If you haven't joined my email list yet, please do so. First of all, it is free. By signing up, you get immediate access to all my free content. It'll be delivered right to your email inbox. This is the best way to make sure you don't miss out on any of my free content. In order to sign up, go to BibleMountain.com, click on follow. There will be a place there to enter your email address. Once again, thank you for watching BibleMountain.com.